In 62 AC, King Jaehaerys conferred upon his eldest son the title of Prince of Dragonstone, making him his acknowledged heir to the Iron Throne. Prince Amon was 7 years of age, a boy as tall and handsome as he was modest. He still trained every morning in the yard with his younger brother Prince Balon. The two brothers were close and fast friends, and evenly matched in skill of arms. Amon was taller and stronger, but Balon quicker and more fierce. Their contests were so spirited that they often drew crowds of onlookers, serving men and washwomen, household knights and squires, maesters and septons. They would all gather in the yard to cheer on one prince or the other. One of those who came to watch was Jocelyn Baratheon, the late Queen Alyssa's dark-haired daughter by Rhaegar Baratheon, who grew taller and more beautiful with every passing day. At the feast that followed Aemon's investiture as Prince of Dragonstone, the Queen sat Lady Jocelyn next to him, and the two young people were observed talking and laughing together throughout the evening, to the exclusion of all others. That same year, the gods blessed Jaehaerys and Queen Alsyanna with yet another child, a daughter they named Magali. A gentle, selfless and sweet-natured girl, and exceedingly bright, she soon attached herself to her sister Alyssa in much the same way that Prince Balon had attached himself to Prince Amon, though not entirely as happily. Now it was Alyssa's turn to be bristled at having the baby clinging to her. She evaded her as best she could, as Balon laughed at her. We have talked of several of Jaehaerys' achievements. As 62 AC drew to its end, the king looked ahead at the year dawning and all the years beyond, and began to make plans for a project that would transform the Seven Kingdoms. He'd given King's Landing cobblestones, cisterns and fountains. Now he lifted his eyes beyond the city walls to the hills and bogs that stretched from the Dornish marches. "My lords," he told the council, "when the Queen and I go forth on our progresses, we go on Vermithor and Silverwing, where we look down from the clouds. We see cities and castles, hills and swamps, rivers, streams and lakes. We see market towns and fishing villages, old forests, mountains, moors and meadows, flocks of sheep, fields of grain, ancient battlefields, ruined towers. There is much and more to see in the Seven Kingdoms. Do you know what I do not see, however?" The king slapped the table hard. "Roads, my lords. I do not see any roads. I see some ruts, if I fly low enough. I see some game trails, and here and there some footpaths by streams, but I do not see any proper roads. My lords, I will have roads." The building of so many leagues of roads would continue throughout the rest of Jaehaerys Targaryen's long reign, and into the reign of his successor, but it started that very day in the council chambers of the Red Keep. Let it not be thought there were no roads in Westeros before his reign. Hundreds of roads crisscrossed the land, many dating back thousands of years to the days of the first men and the age of heroes. Even the children of the forest had paths they followed when they moved from place to place beneath their trees. Yet the roads as they existed were abysmal, narrow, muddy, rutted, crooked. They wandered through hills and woods and over streams without plan or purpose. Only a handful of those streams were bridged. River fords were often guarded by men-at-arms who demanded coin for the right to cross. They were no better than brigands. Some of the lords whose lands these roads passed through maintained them in some sort of fashion, but many did not care to. A rainstorm would wash them out. Robber knights and broken men preyed upon travellers who used them. Before Maegor the Cruel and his war with the faith, the poor fellows would provide a certain amount of protection to the common folk upon the roads, that is, when they were not robbing them themselves. After the disbandment of the faith militant, the realm's byways became more dangerous than ever. Even great lords travelled with large escorts. To correct all these issues in a single reign would be impossible, but Jaehaerys determined to make a good start and for his children to finish his work. King's Landing, it must be remembered, was a very young city, as cities go. Before Aegon the Conqueror and his sisters had come ashore from Dragonstone, only a modest fishing village stood on the 3 hills where the Blackwater Rush flowed into Blackwater Bay. Not surprisingly, few roads of any note began or ended at this modern fishing village. The city had grown quickly. In 62 years since Aegon's conquest, a few crude roads had sprung up within it, narrow and dusty tracks that followed the shore up to Stokeworth, Rosby and Duskendale, or cut through the hills to Maidenpool. Aside from that, there was nothing. No roads connected the king's seat with the great castles and cities of the land. King's Landing was mostly a port, and far more accessible by sea. And this is where Jaehaerys Targaryen would begin. The woods south of the river was an old forest, dense and overgrown, fine for hunting, but very poor for travel. He commanded that the road be cut through it to connect King's Landing with Storm's End. The same road should be continued north of the city, from the Rush to the Trident, and beyond, straight along the Greenford and through the Neck, then across the wild trackless north to Winterfell and the Wall, the King's Road, the small folk named it, the longest and most costly of Jaehaerys' many roads. The first he begun, and the first completed. Many others followed the King's Road, the Rose Road, the Ocean Road, the River Road, the Gold Road. Some of these roads had existed for centuries in very crude and basic forms, but Jaehaerys would remake them beyond all recognition from their old selves, filling ruts, spreading gravel, bridging rivers. Other roads his men created anew. The cost of this was not inconsiderable, to be sure, but the realm was prosperous, and the king's new master of coin, Martin Tyrell, aided and abetted by his very clever wife, proved as almost as capable as Rigo Draz. Mile by mile, league by league, the roads grew. He bound the land together and made the 7 kingdoms one. Read the words on the plinth of the old king's monument that stands in the citadel of Oldtown, and this statement was true. King Jaehaerys reshaped not only King's Landing, but brought to fruition Aegon the Conqueror's ultimate vision of bringing Westeros together. His roads, for the first time, allowed connections between the far reaches of the north at the Wall to the far south and Oldtown. For the first time in the history of Westeros, its people were truly becoming one with a shared identity, and it's for this reason that Jaehaerys is not only so fondly remembered, but looked back upon through history with so much esteem.